Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. There's even a brand new Brigadier General tier where you can get a shout out on a Commander's Quarters episode that's dedicated to you. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show.
What are you buying?
Is the question that old Rutstein is going to be asking you, or you're playing Resident Evil 4 and you hear that. But yeah, old Rutstein, if you haven't seen the episode on that Commander, make sure you check it out. Also, you have got to check out, well, after this episode, A Ruth Tormented Prophet. It very well might be my new favorite commander from this set, and yeah, it's quite spicy. And speaking of spicy, make sure you check out my most recent episode on Sinner's Judgment, a brand new way to make your opponent lose the game. And yeah, though that episode is quite fun, don't leave just yet, because this episode is, well, quite spicy as well, and actually with a card that at first I just completely dismissed, and then after realizing one very important thing, I'm now saying, wait, that's actually really good. So what is Wash Away and what exactly does it do? Well, let's jump into it to find out. First off, a big thank you to Eddie for all the great discussions around all these cards, including this one. And yeah, Wash Away is an instant for a blue, and it's got Cleave, which again, I've said before, I really like this mechanic. The Cleave cost is 1 blue, so you can cast this spell for its Cleave cost, and if you do, remove those words in square brackets. So let's just read it without the Cleave cost first. Counter target spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand. And if you cast it for its Cleave cost, you're countering target spell. So this is a flexible counter spell that, well, you can cast for 3 mana if you just have to counter a certain spell, but in certain situations, and one very important and very relevant situation in Commander, you can just cast this for 1. And again, before that situation came up, well, I just completely dismissed this card. I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, some players, cast things from outside their hand. You can cast things from graveyards, like maybe with, Disturb or with, Flashback, etc., etc. Some people, cast things from exile, like, if they impulse draw something, then cast it. That would be a situation too. But the main situation that comes up in literally every single Commander game where you can just cast this for 1 mana is to counter someone's commander. Because commanders are not cast from their owner's hands, they're cast from the command zone. So yeah, this is either 3 mana counter any spell you need to, or 1 mana, sometimes counter, a flashback spell, or pretty much always counter a commander spell. So yes, this card can definitely be relevant in pretty much any Commander game. I mean, the vast majority of Commander decks out there definitely revolve around their commander. So just by holding up 1 blue mana, you can absolutely wreck someone's turn by countering their commander, and, they wasted the mana to actually try to cast that commander, and the next time they try to cast it, they're gonna have to pay 2 more, because, again, commander tax. But again, it has that flexibility that if you really need to ensure that you can counter basically anything, you can hold up 3 mana to do so. So yeah, again, at first, I completely just dismissed this card as, well, it's somewhat flexible, but, how often are you going to be countering someone's, flashback spell or whatnot? Well, it is definitely more relevant than I initially thought. Now, there are plenty of fantastic counterspell options out there, and actually, we've been getting more and more flexible ones lately. That being said, stop playing Cancel. It is a terrible card, and it doesn't deserve to see play in pretty much any deck that isn't just running every single counterspell it possibly can. According to EDH Rec, it currently sees play in over 2% of eligible decks, which is over 9,000 decks. Stop running it. There are better options that are, yes, just as budget friendly. I'm pretty sure I did an episode about this card like 2 years ago, and it's still seeing play. I don't understand, everyone. I don't understand. I mean, again, with a counterspell like Wash Away, you can do the exact same thing. If you cast the cleave cost, you're doing the exact same thing. But again, you have that flexibility for just 1 mana to counter, a commander or, well, some other fantastic things. Like, fantastic flashback cards like Dread Return, or jumpstart cards like Chemist's Insight, or, rebound cards like World at War. Wouldn't it just be nice to just pay 1 mana instead of 3 to counter these? And against certain commanders, this is incredibly effective. So if your friend's playing these commanders, well, you know what? Take out your cancel and put this in, and you know what? You're gonna have a better time. Like Malik is at Paragon, who likes to cast things off the top of their library, not in the hand. Prosper Tomebound, who casts things from exile, and then Vega the Watcher, who casts things from, well, anywhere but your hand. So yeah, please, please, please again, take out your cancels for pretty much any other counterspell. This is quite frustrating. Okay, off my soapbox, let's move on and talk about other counterspells that this compares to. So let's start off with 3 mana counterspells that see a good amount of play with cards like Disallow, Saw It Coming, and Dissipate. Now actually, really quick, yes, I know a card like Counterspell exists, I'm not going to be bringing that one up, and yes, I know that, Mana Drain exists, but that's like a $55 card. So yeah, I'm not going to bring up, Mana Drain or those free counterspells. I'm going to bring up some more reasonably budget-friendly options, okay? Regardless, Disallow says counter-target spell, activate ability, or triggered ability, so yeah, this can apply to a lot of things. Saw It Coming says counter-target spell, and it's got a foretell cost of 1 and a blue, so yeah, you can foretell it, which can kind of just be like a spell deterrent as it is, because people don't know what it is, and they might assume it's Saw It Coming, but they don't know. So they might not cast certain things, and also you get a discount when you cast it, from Foretell. Ironically, though, by someone foretelling Saw It Coming, you can actually counter it very easily with Wash Away for just 1 mana. That's kind of funny. And then Dissipate is one of those counter spells that's like, I just really, really, really want to get rid of you. It counters target spell, and if that spell is countered this way, it's exiled instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Next up, we've got cards like Sinister Sabotage, Dissolve, and Neutralize. On top of countering a spell, Sinister Sabotage is going to have a Surveil 1, Dissolve is going to have a Scry 1, and with Neutralize, we can actually cycle it for 2. So yeah, all of these kind of provide either card advantage or card selection. Speaking of which, we also have You Find the Villain's Lair, which has Choose 1, Foil Their Scheme, Counter Target Spell, or Learn Their Secrets, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So this can literally either be card selection or, a counter spell. Speaking of which, Supreme Will says choose 1, counter target spell unless its controller pays 3, or look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them in your hand, the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. So this one is a 3 mana, not a guaranteed counter, but pretty close with that paying 3, and yeah, if not, you can just utilize it for some card advantage. And finally, at 3 mana, there's Unwind, which is going to counter target non-creature spell and untap it to 3 lands. So if your biggest threats that you're going up against are non-creature spells, yeah, this can do the job and get you your mana back. Or actually even more if your lands can tap for more than, 1 mana apiece. Yeah. Regardless, now that we've talked about some 3 mana spells, because again, with that cleave cost, you're going to be paying 3 for it, let's talk about some 1 mana spells for comparison. So first up, there's Dispel, which can just straight up counter target instant spells. So yeah, for 1 mana, if you're going up against another counter spell or an instant spell you want to get rid of, congratulations, here you go. And next up, there's Spell Pierce, which has a bit of a wider ability to counter. It can counter target non-creature spell, but its controller can pay 2 to, not have that happen. 2 is obviously a decent amount early in the game, or if someone, taps out essentially, but there are definitely times that players later in the game are going to be able to pay this. In a similar way, there's Miscast, which can counter target instant or sorcery spell once its controller pays 3. So yeah, less flexible than Spell Pierce in that it can't counter, planeswalkers or artifacts or enchantments, but yeah, it can do a good job against instant sorceries. Moving on though, we've got Stubborn Denial, which can counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1, but if we got a creature that has power 4 or greater, that spell just straight up gets countered. So if you've got a deck that's running some big creatures, well, this can definitely do the job for you. Or if you've got a deck that wants to protect a very specific thing, well, you've got Turn Aside. Turn Aside's got a counter target spell that targets a permanent we control. And finally, Abjure makes a sacrifice a blue permanent to counter target spell. So obviously, most of these are pretty conditional, or they can only counter certain things, or in certain situations, or unless someone doesn't pay a certain amount. And obviously, unlike Wash Away, they aren't nearly as flexible. Now, I'm not saying that Wash Away is going to be better for every single deck, but that flexibility is nice, and you're always going to pretty much have something to counter because, yeah, commanders. But next up, let's talk about some commanders that actually might want to consider this counterspell. And obviously, the first one is going to be Baral, Chief of Compliance, which, Well, Baral just loves counterspells. He has instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So the king of counterspells is obviously a good place for another counterspell. And yeah, another control commander that might want to utilize this card is Grand Arbiter Augustin IV. He has white spells cost you 1 less to cast, blue spells cost you 1 less to cast, and spells your opponents control cost 1 more to cast. And also, you lose your friends by playing this commander. Just kidding. But maybe. And yeah, there are definitely some Talrand Sky Summoner decks out there that have an incredible amount of counter spells. All you need to do is just counter spells, and every single time you cast instant or sorcery spell, which includes your counter spells, you're going to be making 2/2 Drakes with flying. So you just counter every spell that exists, make a bunch of Drakes, swing, and win. Sounds like so much fun. So yeah, obviously the counterspell focused decks are a natural place for this kind of card. That being said, outside of just counterspell decks, there are going to be plenty of commanders out there that could utilize a card like this. In all honesty, and actually with a good amount of these counterspells, I really think that some of them are kind of just a personal judgment call. I really do think it depends upon, your playstyle and your meta and kind of what you want to get out of a counterspell. If in your meta, graveyard decks are a problem, well, Dissipate will probably really help you out, being able to get rid of a spell permanently. And if conversely, you've got a deck that likes getting stuff in the graveyard, well, Sinister Sabotage can really help you out with that. But yeah, if you want a flexible counterspell that can be just a 1 mana counter anyone's commander, or, also just miscellaneously good against decks that are trying to cast things, from exile or their graveyard or anywhere else but their hand, Wash Away is definitely the card for you. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.